Welcome to Rock the Crown. Hey, what's up, Crown Nation? It's your girl, Naima, and I am here with my special guest, Monica X. Thompson, Trauma Health. And guess what? Today we are talking about Black woman's freedom to financial freedom. That's what we're talking about. So, a book review, and with that book review, we have a specific book that we're going to be talking about, and as we're commenting on some things within the book, we're going to be talking about trauma-free wealth. So if you joined us last week, you know that Monica was on here with us, all of the schmillies, talking about coach, and she, of course, is not a trauma counselor, but now she is embarking upon doing trauma-free wealth, the Radiant series. And if you haven't heard about that, you can definitely go to her website. But we're going to be talking about wealth because this is something that is extremely important in order for us as Black women to be able to build wealth. So Monica, welcome back.
Yes, thank you. Thank you again for having me. I'm very, very excited to talk about this.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk. So today, again, I want to show everybody this book we're talking about. So Paris Woods wrote this book, The Black Girl's Guide to Financial Freedom. And of course, the year is Build Wealth, Retire Early, and Live the Life of Your Dreams. You know that, when we have these books on the show, we talk about them kind of like an overview as opposed to like delving all the way in. Sometimes we do. But today we're just going to do an overview. So this book specifically has 8 chapters. And the first chapter being, and so when she starts to talk about credit, she talks about you're drowning in debt. We know that we are, especially sometimes Black women. The truth about credit, like how credit can help you and or hurt you, and making sure that you're prepared for emergencies, as well as using credit cautiously. Also know that there are some who have ideas of using credit wisely in order to manipulate money. And when I say manipulate, that's a good word. Okay? Manipulate money. So, Monica, tell me what you have experienced in talking to people when they talk about, hey, I'm drowning in debt. What does that really mean from your perspective in terms of like people you've had to counsel previously?
I love that question. I think there is something that we need to take into consideration, right? Is that wealth and income are 2 separate components of economic well-being. So if we are to understand income is the constant flow of money that comes in either through your employment, maybe a business, Social Security, any of those sort of platforms. Whereas wealth really consists of your assets, things like your home, mortgages, vehicles, minus your debt. So once we get that clarity, right, we understand that it's not terrible. It's how do you manipulate it, right? In that same sort of way, how do you understand it and utilize it? So debt is a normal occurrence. So you're going to always have a debt. How do you manage your income to wealth / debt ratio in a way that feels productive? And if you're not, what sort of mechanisms are you put into place to really help address that misstep or that non-equal divide?
Yeah. And sometimes when we use the term drowning in debt, it's almost as if, can we swim? Can we swim? Or do we get in the deep end on purpose, because I think that people sometimes use the term, oh, I'm drowning in debt, but you really did it on purpose, meaning
Mm,
made conscious decisions when you made those purchases and you went beyond your means. So I know that people sometimes think of credit as money that they have, but they can wait to pay it back. But
right.
we also, as you were just explaining, the income that you have coming in, you still have to replenish this. So I guess this is why going into thinking of it and using it cautiously is something that we need to kind of like focus on. Maybe like one tip,
Hmm.
how people should use credit for emergency purposes and how should they use it cautiously.
I love that. So, what I want to do is explore how our relationship with money before I answer that question.
Okay, great.
I
Yes, yes.
that often we have been taught from a framework when understanding and engaging with money. It's like it's
Mhm.
here now and it's gone tomorrow. So even
Yeah.
concepts of like caution, it will aggravate that sense of fear, right? And this is where trauma-free
Yeah.
wealth steps in. So
Yes.
I think before I don't want to jump into my framework, I want to answer this question. I think that it's important for us to develop a healthy, secure relationship with money. So
Mm,
Gary Chapman is the author of The Love Languages.
yes.
Um, and we understand that there's ways in which we accept love, right? And that kind of concept of how we interpret love and receive love can be transferred to how we understand and engage with money. So some of my
Mm,
thoughts about the ways in which those sort of traumas or your experiences really impact that. But to get to the answer around credit, I think it's important for us to understand that credit is a mechanism to get things that you need, right? Just the same way you would get a second job if you
say that again. Say that
right?
again.
Credit is not the problem. The problem is how are you using it, and if it's causing this offshoot of an imbalance with your incomes to debt, because debt is naturally occurring, but once it rises above your income, you can see how it can feel like you're drowning because now
Yeah.
it has your ability to pay it back down.
Hmm. Uh-huh. I love that.
And I'll just add this to the second piece is that I think that outside of marginalized identities, it has been widely understood that credit card use is helpful. People
Mhm.
start businesses, fund their businesses from it. I think our understanding is that, oh, you're gonna get that credit card and then you're gonna go in debt, you're gonna lose your house, you're gonna lose everything. And I think the missing piece between that that fallacy and it to leading it to unnecessary truth is that we don't have a good enough relationship with our money. We don't understand it.
Yeah.
It's beyond illiteracy. It's like a disengagement in some ways.
I love that. And I love how you talked about the parameters of cautiousness is related to how we, because again, yeah, I can be, it's the same thing as with any relationship. I can be cautious in a relationship, but it's based on how I deal with that specific relationship. So, with that being said, what is something, how can people, because again, I don't think that people think of like relationship when it comes to money. They're not thinking of it in that way. What
Right.
are some tools that we can use to develop a great relationship with money?
I love this. So a lot of my work with clients really starts at the root because I believe that Black and Brown women are immensely capable of creating like mega businesses. We are
Mhm.
financial. What I also believe is that we don't have the financial, we haven't addressed our financial traumas, and that leads to some discrepancies with our capacity to grow. So I think in terms of how does one start to build a productive and adaptive relationship with money is really to understand, one, what are your thoughts about money? When you think about money, do you become fearful? How does your body respond? So understanding if there's a fear base, if there's an excitement, if there's a sense of in control. And I think this is a good point to talk about some of the archetypes that I've identified in my work and my research. I think it's going to be it can transcend the rest of the conversation. So typically when people have money trauma, and I argue that most of us do, the severity to which one experiences differs, but we tend to almost all have money trauma. And with money trauma, you begin to have financial insecurity, thoughts of insecurity, shame, guilt, powerlessness. And what my work and my research has identified is 6 money trauma archetypes. So ways in which people interact and engage with their money. So we have the avoider, we have the insecure, we have the controller, the detached, the sabotager, and the rainy day thinker. And none of these are terrible, but when this is your constant state of engagement with money, that's when it becomes detrimental.
Can you go back over those again?
Absolutely. So we have the avoider, the person that doesn't want to engage with their money. They don't check their bank accounts. They are the person at the table is like, I hope it goes through because I got like $6 in my pocket, right?
Right.
You have the right. Listen, that was me a couple of times. So there's growth in this process. There's the insecure. This person doesn't feel their relationship with money makes them feel like they're not valuable. So this person might not talk about raises. They might not negotiate prices. They are just like, this is what I have. I'm okay with it. And that's what I deserve. The controller is a lot like the rainy day thinker. And that is the person that's like, I need my money. I need to know exactly where it is, but I don't want to invest because I don't trust anybody else with my money. As long as I have it, I'm good. The detached is the person that has the money, but doesn't have a relationship. They are the person that might check in on their money every 3 months. And though that's not terrible, for a secure relationship, you're going to want to call on them, check in on them, make sure they're good. And that's the kind of relationship you want with your money. The sabotager is the person that tends to do things to sabotage their money. They might go on take 3 of their friends on a trip on their credit card, knowing that their job is going to end in the next 3 months. But they're like, I might as well live my life to the best right now.
Right.
Listen, I dabbled in that too, right? And then the last one is the rainy day thinker. The rainy day thinker cannot live in their present time need and circumstance of money and always thinking about the future. So they also don't like to spend money because the future them might need it. And that neglects the present them. And these all came from my work with clients, both directly and indirectly, understanding their money trauma.
I can see how all of these can sabotage exactly what we're going to continue to talk about through this show. So even going into, of course, we talked about credit. She also goes into cars, right? And this has a big thing. So like these 6 characteristics are going to affect how you purchase a car, because number one, you need a car unless of course you're in New York and you're riding the subway. But in most, excellent subway system in New York, horrible bus systems across the United States, right? And so when you need a car, a couple of things kind of bubble up, right? Number one, she states in the book that loans kill freedom, right? You have this loan, you have to pay it every month. There's no sense of freedom until you actually pay that off. So now it used to be where car loans were 3 years. Now it's like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years out for a car note. Crazy. And this whole sense of when I need a car, it's more of not. So it you need a car, but it also translates into I want a lifestyle. Right.
Right.
So I want a child. So sometimes people get cars that they want a lifestyle for, not get cars for the need of the car.
Hmm.
And so so that kind of reminds me of like, yeah, these people who, again, you're sabotaging your money
Right.
because you want this Mercedes-Benz GS and you know that you can only afford a Hyundai XL. You know what I'm saying? So that part.
And I think there's something interesting around it. And I'll, if I may, I'm
Yes.
going to pull it back to our history as Black people. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'll relate it to the here and now. So, as we know, our existence here in America started as impacted directly from slavery. We were able to get some sort of freedom from sharecropping. And in that time, people lived in dire situations, but on Sunday, they wore their Sunday's best.
Yes.
And it was a way of like insinuating pride and joy, even though their circumstances were dire. So
Yeah.
there's that. Right? And when we talk about money and money trauma, there's a lot of intergenerational deliveries and stories that we pass on. So I do believe that in the Black community, there is this don't let people see you sweat sort of
Mm,
ideology of
yeah.
show your best foot forward, wear your Sunday's best so they don't know what's going on at home. So there is
Mm,
that. We understand that we can see why somebody would want to get that Mercedes Benz when they truly need to get that 2017 Toyota, right? Um,
yes.
but that's part of the mechanism of this trauma because
Mm,
they know that if they can conceal their financial both insecurities and incapacities by leading
mm,
with this luxury, then people will treat them a certain way. But it really
yes.
starts, right? And I think that's so
Yes.
deep when we think about the ideology and how we don't even know where it's stemming from, but we saw it so often either in our own lives, our families' lives, media, and other depictions of ourselves that we start to embody these stories.
Yeah. I could totally see that. Also can see that like when people start thinking about money and the trauma around like not thinking that they have the trauma around money, but whether or not you have it and how hard you try to hold on to it and the methods in which we get it. So the methods in which we get money also create trauma. So if you, unfortunately, in some communities, some people do sell drugs, right?
Mhm.
Some people do sell their body. They do things that are outside of the social norms, the moral norms, and that's
Mhm.
all they know in terms of like how to get money. And I know
Yeah.
that when we went to ROI, we were introduced to different people who had a certain skill set in
Yes.
that area, but now have turned it around into an entire banking institution or banking like mindset. So they're
Yeah.
able to now teach people about banking and teach people about and teaching people how to be financially free and all these other things. And so that I think is where freedom comes.
Mhm.
The beautiful thing about understanding like, yeah, I can make money and money can be clean in how I bring it in, but money can also be dirty in how I bring it in. So understanding those dynamics, I think that that is just as powerful in terms of like when we start thinking about our money. And then of course, people who when they were younger, they had chores and they understood money early, and people
Yeah.
who didn't receive money for chores.
Right.
It's like, what? You didn't get any money when you were a child for chores? No. And so that I think can sometimes lead to the controller as they get
Mhm.
older. Oh, I got money. I need to stick it. I'm not gonna share. I'm not gonna, I just need to know I have my money in the bank and I'm not gonna spend it like that. Or, again, the rainy day type person. Oh, I didn't have money when I was younger because I didn't, I wasn't awarded when I did chores. So I need to be thinking of like, oh, this is gonna run out. So I need to save it all and hoard it all. Yeah,
Mhm.
those are some really powerful powerful things that we really should really start delving into in order to understand how our wealth is going to build, which is of course totally different. But another chapter that she talks about in part one of the book is education.
Mhm.
And this is a whole different topic in and of itself, but like student loans,
Mm.
going to debt-free college. We know, what about graduate schools, and understanding how some graduate schools will pay for you to go and some won't, and what are the mistakes when it comes to education. But the biggest thing of student loans, like that, to me, it's so counterintuitive to have a system that is built on you becoming educated, but yet when you graduate, you're still going to be struggling. Does that make maybe I'm crazy. It doesn't make sense to me, but
You're not. You're not crazy. I have a lot of feelings about that, especially what it means with student debt. And I'm a little I'm a little controversial, so I'll just jump on a bit
yeah, let's
of
do
a
it.
I I know historically, especially all of my point of views are U.S. centric because
Mhm.
that's my framework. And
Yes.
since about the 50s, many professions started to um, become more diverse, right? Like as Jim Crow started to inch, we started to gain freedom, societal freedoms, and our education became currency for us to enter certain spaces. What
Right.
society did was they created new parameters to keep us out. So things like licensures, things like needing master's degrees, things like needing these higher level postgraduate certifications in order to gain certain forms of employment, then became a new barrier for Black and Brown people to engage with. Right
Mhm.
now, Black women are earning educational credentials and getting jobs in many, many fields. And there's
Mhm.
actual research, right? So from the 2019 State of the Women Owned Business Report, it reported that the percentage of but Black women who have earned bachelor's degree outpaced that of white women and Asian women between the years of
Yes.
2011 and 2019. Right now, there's statistics that are supporting that Black women are the most highly educated of all demographic groups. Yet,
Yes.
when we understand our debt to ratio, right? Because many of us wanted to go to the best schools because we understand that systematic racism doesn't allow for us to just enter a space by merit alone. We need to substantiate our education and our value. So we
Yeah.
need to go to these certain institutions. And to do so, we had to take out student debt. Student debt
Yes.
is a new form, in my opinion, of slavery.
Slavery.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you quickly my story. So I have my bachelor's, I have my master's, I'm currently in a PhD program. My PhD program is fully funded based upon different fellowships that I was able to acquire. My master's
Mhm.
degree, I went to a state school. So I'm from New York City, Hunter College. Um, it was about $60,000. When I
Mhm.
tell you, I paid every month my bill, which was about $400 every month for 7 years. Never really had a reason to go in to check. So I knew the payments were coming out because I remember being sad during my paycheck.
Right.
When
So you were detached.
I was, yeah, look at you, yes. So I was detached. I was just like, take my money, do what you need to do. I'm almost done. So I owe $60,000. Remember that. 7 years of paying $400 a month. When I checked, you want to take a guess how much I owed?
65.
Better. $83,000.
Oh my God.
It didn't go down at all because the interest rate.
It's so
What I was
high.
yeah, what I was paying, which was 400, which is substantial for my income, was it didn't even cover interest.
Mm.
So I wasn't even putting a dent. So for 7 years,
So
it went up.
compounding.
Yes. So I went up $23,000 without any clue, no indications. How does one get out of that?
Yeah.
And
That's
I mean,
right.
it's not. It's it's devastating. It's sad, and this is why I believe that we need to move out of traditional ways of achievement. So
Mhm.
I'm not saying college is bad. College is good, but maybe you don't go to college to get a regular job. Maybe you create the job, you create the income capacity and venue to substantiate the loans. Because
Yeah.
usually we come out, we get entry level jobs, we stayed it for 3 years, we finally get promoted. We are working against the system that doesn't work towards our own financial betterment. How can we think outside of the parameters, how outside of the margins, and make
Yeah.
it work for ourselves?
Yeah. It's so beautiful when you said, how can we get out? That's actually her next chapter, getting out, right? And so when she talks about
Right.
getting out, she talks about like this, you're in a sunken place, right? Yeah, you're in a sunken place because you have debt for, you have credit card debt. You've bought these cars. You've had to go through education. This doesn't even scratch the surface of, hey, I bought a house. I've had to,
Mhm.
take out loans. Now they have loans for things as simple as going to the dentist. They have credit cards for going to the dentist. Like even healthcare is something that people have to
Mm.
basically use some
Yeah.
other form of income just to live. And so then we start thinking about, yeah, how do you get out of that, right? And how do you
Yes.
create, as they say in the book, an escape plan? And another thing about this book is that she has tons of different worksheets and activities within each of these chapters that I'm encouraging everyone to, again, get the book, Black Girl's Guide to Financial Freedom, and do the actual work. And also remembering that as we're going and talking about this book, do it based on what's best for you, not
Absolutely.
what you hear other people echoing and saying that they did. What's best for you. And again, because what may be best for you, someone else may not be best for you. And then we love for people to give us advice, but some people, they don't understand what it means to be in debt $25,000, or they may not understand what it means to be in debt $150,000. And
Yes.
it's like a cloud, like in Houston, Texas. It's a big fog.
Yes. Yeah. No, really
That
is.
when it comes to your money, it's like, man, how do we find so then it becomes this whole desperate type thing that we start living in, a mode of desperation. And then people start living in the mode of robotics, meaning going to work, making the income, and that's it. Going to work. And that's all that they do. So they're not able to look outside of themselves and do what she talks about in part 2, dream, earn, and invest. Because they're so focused on, oh, how can I get out of this debt? Right.
Right.
But I want to go into the dreaming part because,
Mm.
with all of our framework that we learned from Hello 7 and our coaching, is that, yeah, we talk about, the first thing we talk about when we coach our clients is, what is your $1 million vision? Talking
Yes.
about how can you envision
Mhm.
yourself being and doing a specific thing.
Yes.
What does that look like? Where are you at now? And how far is it to get there? Because again, you can only go somewhere if you know where you're going.
Mm. Absolutely.
Right? So tell me about, like, when you start talking to your clients about, like, how are we going to solve this trauma-free wealth? What does that look like next for them?
I oh yes, yes. You're speaking my language, right? Because I mean, I think dreaming in the capacity to engage in imagination, especially for Black and brown women, has not always been a reality. So
Yeah.
it's almost a act of emancipation and liberation. So I love imagination. I love this thought of dreaming. So Rachel Rogers, the amazing, the dynamic, she says in
Okay.
her We Shall All Be Millionaires that your thoughts are always a prelude to your actions. And
Mhm.
it's a striking quote because we have to understand that we are working in a interconnected system of how we engage with the world. I call it
Yeah.
MBA. So mindsets impact your behaviors, then impact your actions, right? So if
Yeah.
your mindset is that, and you mentioned desperation, we can
Mhm.
see how that then creates desperate behaviors. Maybe you are just like take whatever job you can get, no matter the hours. Who needs sleep? I sleep when I die. And now your actions are led to fed into desperation too. So, okay, I'm only going to shop at Family Dollar and I'm only going to get this. I don't deserve anything else. And now there's a cycle of desperation that you're not able to get out of because it has solidified around your mindset. So you have to change in order to change your behaviors and actions. I'm going to dabble into a little bit of science and I'll bring it back to dreaming, I promise. So when we understand mindset, we have to understand the mechanisms of our brain. We have an actual system in our processes, our cognitive processes called the reticular activating system. And I'll call it ROS just to move forward with. But ROS is a system that allows for us to connect to our subconscious, right? So when we have a thought, we have a behavior, all of this is interconnected through this system of neurons and synapses. So what we understand, so if your thought, your belief, your mindset, and we understand it to be a neural pathway, and you say something like, I'm never going to get money. You start to time yourself for opportunities where you don't get money. And the inverse is true too. So if you're saying, I am a millionaire opportunities start to attract themselves to you. Not, I believe in the metaphysical, but I'm talking purely in the cognitive. You start to give yourself a cognitive priming system. So you only see yellow taxis if you're thinking about yellow as your color. And it's like, wow, I thought I would see all these yellow taxis. Your mind has become acquainted to the idea that that's what you want to see. So to bring it into dreaming and imagination, how can you situate yourself in a dreamlike state of seeing yourself making whatever it is beyond your belief? I want you to go outside your standards. If you're like, I want a job, and you're like, nervous about making $130,000 and nervous to say that, I want you to be bold, daring, and outrageous and say, I want to make $250,000. See where that accelerates your body, right? Because now we understand the limit of your capacity. You only think you're worth 130. So now let's play in the playground of 250,000. Let's see what that feels like. Let's get accustomed to that. Let's get familiar. Let's live there for a little while. And that's the mindset work. It's understanding where you are and finding ways and mechanisms to get you to where you really want to be, not based upon your societal positionality, but where you truly want to be. And that's where the imagination and dreaming really lives.
Yeah. Also, something beautiful about the mindset is that when we start talking about, we have to always speak in the affirmative, right? And so sometimes people talk about, oh, well, what I won't do is reframe the question and reframe the sentence, right? And talking about, I want to make $130,000. What I want to then also say is challenge beyond that. Say, I am. Because when you are living in the present tense, it is real.
Yes.
Because sometimes people can live in a space of, I want forever. I want to go on a vacation. I want to have a big house. I want to have a big car. But when they say, I am, it triggers the body to naturally begin to respond. Your brain says, oh, I am. So now let's start doing it. And then your mind and your body and everything starts to free flow. That's why it's so, so important to live in the space and in the way of integrity. When you lie to yourself, you become sick.
Yes.
We become sick, right? So we keep talking about, what you were talking about earlier about the cars, how the cars are, we say, oh yeah, we want people to, the car is like our Sunday best. We're showing up in that way. You're pulling into an apartment, and nothing wrong with apartments, but you're pulling it into an apartment that you're only paying a specific amount, and you're worried about someone's going to steal your car because you're living in a specific neighborhood, right? Or maybe you are to a house, but the house doesn't resonate what the car is saying on the outside. And then when you sometimes walk into people's homes, it begins to resonate even more, because then it begins to really tell the story of exactly where they're living, how they're living, and what is showing up on the inside. And so it's so, so powerful. Again, dreaming is, something else that Rachel says, millionaires don't dream, they plan. So dreaming is an early mechanism to get people to understand that something can exist, but then there are opportunities to plan. And that's what's really going to get us to the next step. And so doing all of the dreaming, okay, of course, again, we talk about the $1 million vision and the $1 million story. What story are you telling yourself? And so recently I was on a coaching call with an older lady, and she was just basically talking about, she has this tape in her head that keeps going on, and it's a voice. We all have that voice in our head. And I recently started listening to Playing Big.
Okay.
I don't know if you listen to that, Playing Big. And it talks about this voice in your head. It talks about why that voice is there and how we need to quiet the voice, not erase the voice. Because yes, the voice is there, but are you being ruled by the voice? Meaning, like, when you want to step into your bigger self, do you say, "Oh, I can't. Oh, I don't know why." And we always go into these uncertain places where we have to stand and say, "No, I have to be certain. I have to live within certainty of myself, live within certainty of freedom." It's just, oh my God, it's just so many different things that we have going on and need to have going on. But again, what we're talking about today is nothing that is taught in school. Our parents were not taught this, so they couldn't teach us. We're just learning it. So now, hopefully, we can impart this onto our children. And of course, some of our children, I know my children, are older. They're in their mid 20s and up. So now it's like, now I have to go back and reteach this to them because I didn't have the knowledge then. And that's how I think the generational idea and concept of wealth and earning changes when we begin to speak into the next generation in a different way.
I totally agree. And I think this touches on the concept of intergenerational learning and like the stories. You talked about stories earlier, and often we need to demystify if the stories that we've been living by are truly our own. And I'll give you an example. When I was younger, I had my father, he was an older man. So he was born the year of the Great Depression. So 1938. That's important to know. And when I talked about my future and success, nothing made sense to him except for going to the military or getting a postal job. Nothing else made sense because in his world, those were the two ways in which Black women were able to substantiate themselves, right?
Yeah.
For long times, you got a pension, you got city benefits, or you got military benefits, you get a house. A teacher, no, man, nobody wants that. Get a postal job, right? So his story then translated into me. And I said, the only way I can become successful is if I get a job that pays me enough and gives me good benefits. Owning a business was far-fetched. Who am I? I'm a business. I don't know nothing about business. I can't maintain it. So that story that he gave me, even though it was wrapped out of love, it didn't have the bandwidth for possibilities because he was simply checking me on his knowledge. And then I interpreted it, I rephrased it, wrote a chapter about it, and lived by it until I realized this is not my words. These are not my stories, and this is not my legacy. And that I get to re-author this chapter. I can, in fact, become a business owner. I have the capacity, I have the integrity, and I can do it once I put my mind to it. And that shift in both understanding my true story and mindset really allow for me to then substantiate a business that has been operating on a six-figure income revenue for the last 5 years, right?
Yes, girl.
I wish that my
into that H5H687, okay?
right. Listen. But no, it's true. So how do
Yeah.
we now really investigate if we are under, are we living in the pretense of our own stories, or have our stories been riddled by our intergenerational pains and sufferings? Um,
Yeah.
and a good way to kind of gauge this, and this is something I do with my clients, is I'll ask questions like, how was what was life like while your mother was pregnant with you?
Mhm.
Right? And that might lead to tons of answers. But when we talk about desperation, if your mother was living in a space where she didn't feel financially secure, she didn't feel emotionally secure, maybe physically secure, all of that then impacts you. That impacts the way
Yes.
it's you. Now that
Yes.
impacts the way in which you see the world. And you get to let that go because your mother's story doesn't need to be your story. It gives
Mm.
you credence to understand what was, because we have to understand where we came from to know where we're going. But that your past doesn't need to be your destination,
Yeah. I love
right?
that. I love that. Yes. And then also in the book, again, talking about earning, um, this whole concept of number one, I heard something today that, they were having a discussion about, families. And a gentleman was saying that, yeah, women should feel responsible to help
Mm,
with the household. And it was countered with no, women should not feel responsible to help with the household at all. If she chooses to, it's her charity. And that's another concept that because of slavery, we've
mhm,
had to re engage our heart and our mind, and which has now led to, after two and three generations, coddling of men, right? So black women coddling our boys, coddling our men, because number one, oh, we don't want them to feel bad because they don't have a place in the world or whatever. Or no, because we can do it, because we are, again, we're high earners,
yes.
just as high as white men in America right now. So white men make the most money, followed by a educated black woman. Hey, guess what? That's what it is, right? And so that's also what leads into this whole pretense of like all of these commercials where you see they're matching up black women with white men in the commercials because they want to feed you a story. But
Mm,
we have to understand that all of these, again, stories that are told to us, we have to understand this concept of women, that the only way you can earn money is because you're taking care of your household. We have to no, you can earn money because you want to earn money.
yes.
And we shouldn't have to feel the burden of earning the income because it's so stressful on us, right? But again, this goes back to the trauma that is passed down from generation to generation to generation. And because you know, economics, as they
Mm,
say, is one of the biggest things that causes divorce, right? So
mm,
people get divorced because of money. And
yes.
it's really the trauma that is
Mhm.
coming up with money is what's causing the opposition in the relationships, and better understanding that will help us. It's so much. It's so much. The whole concept of like, oh, when you earn money, you have to spend less, you have to save. That whole concept of, it's kind of like a poor man's concept. You could be making $250,000, 300, but if you keep telling yourself, I have to spend less, it means almost that you're still indoctrinating yourself with this ability to not trust that the
Yes.
money will regenerate itself. We have to trust that number one, God is the rich, right? So
Mm,
he's the rich. All money comes from him. All money flows from him. If he can give you $1 today, he can give you $100,000 tomorrow. But we have
yes.
to have this sense of abundance in order for it to continue to come into our life and to excel. Like I think that some people, they've been so conditioned, especially people, baby boomers. They've been conditioned that they can only work in the job that they had. Now it's a million jobs out there, but during the baby boomers and the traditionalist period,
Yes.
yeah, there was less than 100,000 jobs in the world. Now there's
Right.
over millions. So it's like, yeah, the world is our oyster. There's so many things that we could do now. Woo, child. Okay.
I'm like
I love it.
all of that, but there's so much there. It truly, I think I wanted to just talk briefly about the concept
Mhm.
around women, money earners, and responsibility at home. So
Yeah.
I have been a solo mom for quite some
Hmm.
time. And
Hmm.
in that journey, I
Hmm.
have always tried to instill in my daughter the capacity that she can do whatever she puts her mind to, right? Like the
Yes.
things she wants to do should not be, how can we decenter? I think we live in a very male centric world. And
Yes.
in order to reimagine what life looks like, it's decentering men and recentering women. That's
Yeah.
my theory, right? So for
Yeah.
me, I want my daughter to earn and have capacity for her own earnings without the
Hmm.
need or desire to um, engage in any activity, be it that a relationship or a job that doesn't have good growth potential, where she feels limited, and that she has,
Right. And
right?
that is the natural order. That's the natural order. Like any relationship that you get in,
Yes,
money,
yes,
people, friends, cars, houses, it should build you up, not
yes,
tear you down. And if it does that, there is no freedom in there. There is
yes,
no freedom in that. Girl.
yes.
So yes, you telling the right thing. You telling the right thing. Another chapter that she talks about is investing. And this is something that like, what's the stock market, what's the index funds, all of these different things, investment accounts that we have, ROI, ROI, ROAs, all this stuff, Roth IRA, all this stuff, all these alphabets, IRAs, all this stuff, savings versus investing. And I have my own concept of like what savings is versus investing, because I don't necessarily agree with the concept of just putting money into a bank account. What are you doing with that?
Right.
Unless it's earning more money and you're going to, again, invest in that, use that money for a deeper investment. It's kind of like, to me personally, it's kind of almost like some form of hoarding. And this whole concept of like retirement that we have,
Yes.
they only have that concept here. And so it's almost like this rat. Someone in these other countries are like, oh, I can't wait to retire. No, you can have abundance of money, residual income that lasts a lifetime, and you're not in this rat race that we constantly feel ourselves in. Tell me what your concept of investing is when it comes to trauma-free wealth.
I think this is another great question. So I like to clarify because I think it's important to note. So I
Yes.
am not a financial advisor. I could
Oh,
give
I totally understand that. Yeah, girl.
but I think when people hear trauma-free wealth, they're like, "Oh, so tell me what I should do with my money." My work is more about what is your relationship with money? How do we
Yes.
build a better relationship? And then how do we now invest in yourself? And I do believe
Yes.
that I have some more controversial thoughts with retirement, especially as it relates to the US. Um, I have heard stories that people have withdrawn their money from their Roth ROAs or like for what is it like 438Bs, whatever those retirement investment that your job places, taking
Right.
that money,
Right.
put it in a high yield savings account and
Yeah.
made much more money,
Much
right?
more money. Yeah.
Because the way the US retirement system is that we all pour into a bucket and whoever is oldest gets that bucket and there's no guarantee that people my age or younger will even have anything, right? And how
Right.
uh, when we talk about desperation, what does that sound like? You're riddled with school debt, you're trying to get a job to survive, rent is almost $3,000 and you may not be able to retire. What sort of stories are you telling yourself about money, right? So
Yeah.
I do believe that when we're thinking about investment, my primary focus is how do you invest in yourself? And those
Yes.
investments vary in like financial commitment. It could be buying this book, right? The Black Girls Guide to Financial Freedom. It might be buying who we all get to be million. I can't think of the name right
We
now.
should all be millionaires. Right. We should all be millionaires. Right.
I should be rich. That's the book. But we those can be small level investments. Maybe a higher level
Right.
investment is you hiring myself and Naima or other amazing dynamic coaches to help you get from point A all the way to your desired point of your optimum growth level. Maybe it's
Yes.
investing the stock market. Maybe it's investing in another form of income earning. How do you understand where you are? What makes the best amount of sense? So one of the issues around investment is that we are so afraid of our money that we don't want to invest. It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. One, right? So let's say for me, my Radiant Wealth series is $2,000. You get to work with me for over 4 hours. I build you out a 6-month business map. For some people, they're like $2,000. You can't do that for like $40 because that's all I got. Or maybe I don't need the business map. I just want this. Can we cut this down? What that is saying and what that is reinforcing when we talk about that that reticular activating system is that I'm worth an investment, right?
Yeah.
So I always shortcome myself when it comes to money.
Yes.
And then you start to live that sort of life. So then you're like, man, I wish I was making more money. I wish I was doing this. But if you're always trying to shortcome yourself, because money, like you said, is energy. So if your energy is let out of desperation, then desperation is what comes back. And I'm not saying that, you might not feel great about my price, but the price is simply you are paying for this energy exchange. I'm getting you from where you are to where you need to be, but there's money attached. But if you don't see the value in yourself, you will always take free, not in almost not nothing, and get bottom level service and and anticipate that. Whereas investing in yourself, just like anything else, invest in a good car. You don't have to worry about maintenance as often. You invest in good clothes. You don't have to like buy new clothes because it lasts for a long time. Investments usually cost more money, but the return on investment is often met easily.
So big, so big, so big. A lot of people, this is what I think a lot of people don't understand about money also is that there is a return on your investment. So yeah, you have to spend money, just like there's a return on your investment when you spend, $1,500 for a cell phone.
Yeah.
The return on the investment is that you're able to communicate people. You're able to use apps. You're able to have all of your information in something inside of your head. You can walk around with it, identity, all of it. That's the investment that you're spending when you buy that phone. When you buy an $800 or $2,000 screen TV, you get to feel like you're at the movies at home. Yeah. So, and it's also what is important to you.
Yes.
And sometimes when we, again, don't think about ourselves, especially as Black women, we always put ourselves last. We have to stop doing that. We have to stop doing that. We have to think about, man, if I invest $2,000 in myself,
right,
6 months, that's going to triple, double. Why? Because now when you can think, when you were talking about the mindset, when your mind begins to shift,
yes,
and of course, in my framework, when you begin to play, right, creativity begins to happen. Then you begin to expand. Your life begins to open up. There's more. There's more. So much more than just the $2,000. And I think that we have to, as Black women, understand this whole thing of investment. Like even with cryptocurrency, all of those different things, we can use those things as a tool, just as money is, but we have to understand the return on what we're putting our investments in. I think that that's so integral. And the last part of this entire thing is freedom. Finding our pathway, creating, and I don't want to say a job, but creating a method of earning income that allows for us to do things in a way where we have some sense of freedom.
Yes.
Where is that for you?
When I think of freedom, obviously I think of it in its physical um, dimensions, right? I want to be free, but there's something around um, being free of the limitations of the present because you are building an expansive future, right? And when I
Yes.
think
Yes.
of my personal story is I I often daydream about my future self. And I think about
Mhm.
who she is and what she does. And I recently started doing cycling, and I worked out, and yeah, and I'm actually running a 5K the first time this year.
I
Next.
love it.
Yes, yes. I was looking at
Right.
you as I'm going to be in Atlanta when that happens. But my future self is dynamic. She's
Yeah.
healthy in terms of her physical well-being, her mental well-being, her financial well-being, because there's financial health too. And
Yeah.
I admire her. I send her messages the same way I would with a person I had a crush on. How you think about them and
Yes.
obsess with them. I think about my future self. And that
Yes.
for me feels like freedom, right? Because it makes me realize that the things I'm going through now are simply temporary because I know that there's
Yes.
a path to something bigger because I imagine
Yes.
it, I see it, I feel it, and I touch it. I have given it tactile capacity and I know it to be true. And I think
Yeah.
that's true I think that if we expand that for everyone, what does it look like to free yourselves of the prisons of today? Because you
Yeah.
know you are building a capacity for tomorrow because we
Yes.
get stuck. We get stuck.
Yes.
I told you I owe over $100,000 in student loans. Monica might find freedom in Colombia. Don't tell nobody though, right? But that's
Okay. Costa Rica. Costa Rica.
listen. But what I'm saying is, I could cry every day and be boggled down by this my incapacity to escape this new form of slavery and not
Right.
invest in myself because I got this debt and I don't have this. Instead, I say, you know what? If there's a way in, there's a way out. And I'm dope, I'm
Yes.
dynamic, and I'm fruitful when it comes to ideas and capacity, and
Yes.
I'll find a way out. And that
Yes.
what changing your mindset does. It gives you that sense of freedom.
It does. I love that. And the bigger sense of freedom is that for me is
Mm,
number one, my time.
mm,
Number two, I can do what I want with my time. So like I have never worked in corporate America. I've never had a job where I have to worry about if I can get off. I have my own, I have a whole sense of time because if I want to take off because I'm going on vacation, I can do that. And that to me is a sense of freedom. A sense of freedom is when I do have money in the bank. And if I want to give charitably, I can. If I want to give, if I want to spend in a way that is beneficial, I can. That's a sense of freedom. Freedom is also to me when I am not bogged down mentally with, oh my gosh, it's the 15th, this bill is coming, this is, you know what I'm saying, knowing that these things are happening, but also feeling secure in a place where I also know that the money is coming. And I want
yes.
to talk real quick before we leave out this financial freedom that we're looking for, and speaking again in abundance, making sure that people understand that when you can be in a dire straight situation, meaning you can have 4 or 5 accounts, negative, negative, negative. You are not the sum of what's happening to you right now.
Yes,
You're
yes.
not that what's right now. So if you continue to look at those negative numbers and say, I don't have anything, you won't have anything. That's why we were talking earlier about I am in the process, saying what you are. I am in the process of becoming wealthy because wealthy people didn't have wealth,
Yeah,
right? There
right.
was some period of time, whether it was passed on from somewhere, even if they had money and it came through lineage, somewhere in that line, that time frame, they didn't have wealth, they didn't have money. And so the more that you can lean into understanding that wealth will eventually come to you and that money will eventually grow into that bank account, you have to have an abundance mindset. Abundance, abundance, abundance thinking, and you have to release the resistance, the
Yes,
trauma that you have with your wealth.
yes. Well, I'll end with the saying, what you resist will persist. So if you're believing that you're not worthy of money, that money doesn't come easily to you, that will persist. When you change your mind, you change your behaviors, you change your actions.
Love it, love it, love it. So, Monica, before we tap out, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find your Radiant series coming up, and how can they become a part and invest in themselves now so that their 2024 is going to blow up, Shuate.
Ooh, I love that. So currently I have 2 offers, and those 2 offers are my 3-day Radiant Wealth series, where we work with each other 3 times, 75 minutes, and I create a personalized roadmap for you and your business, or you and your financial dreams, whatever it is, because I meet people in so many different spheres of their journey. The second one is work with me for 6 months. We meet bi-weekly, 90-minute meetings. We do office hours. You get access to all of my resources. And we work not only through your trauma, we understand where you need to be and what are some of the milestones that are needed to get there. And then you also get that personalized roadmap. I really am invested in helping you not just build your financial framework, but building it on solid ground, which is good mindset and letting go of those limiting beliefs.
Oh, I love that. I love that. What's your IG and maybe your Facebook? Where else can they find you?
You can find me everywhere in the social media world under Trauma Free Wealth. So I post tons of free material on TikTok. I will be posting more on Facebook as well. And my website has all of my offers, ways to get in contact with me. And I'll also put in my Calendly link as well. And that's the easiest way to schedule a time with me.
And please don't let people forget that on Facebook, you can join her new community. Okay, so on Facebook, you can join the new community. And again, this is a place where hey, Black women, you want to feel inspired. You want to be around other women who have that same energy. It is so important, again, to have squad and community behind you as you're lifting yourself up, because you're going to need them and they're going to need you. And we all have resources in which we can tap into one another. So join her community. It's very, very important as well. Thank you again so much for coming back to Rock the Crown. I so appreciate you coming on here. And again, everybody, before we head out, we want to remind you to purchase Paris Woods, the Black Girl's Guide to Financial Freedom. So many different jewels in here. And again, as we're talking about these things, take what benefits you and what doesn't, throw it away. It's all good. You ain't got to talk bad about the book and none of that stuff. Just take what benefits you and keep it moving. And then again, if you want to, I specifically have a niche of working with Muslim women. If you're looking for coaching when it comes to life, business, and life and business, that's me. Reaching out to me on the Lady Khadijah Institute, which is through my business right now, Get It Done Professional Services. But you can find me on getitdonebac.com. And you, of course, on all of the social medias, Get It Done Professional Services as well. And of course, my mission is to help over 1,000 Muslim women live the life that they want to live, basically finding more joy, making more money, and exponentially having so much freedom in their life. So we don't feel so bogged down. So you can follow me on all of those platforms. And if you're interested in getting some coaching, we have that available as well. Again, thank you so much, Crown Nation, for joining us today. You can follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube, and Facebook. Don't forget to check off all of those things, share with other people. And until next time, we hope to see you. Thank you. Peace out. Assalamu alaikum.